This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com, and today is a guest I've talked to before on this channel, none other than Sir Mo from Men on a Mission, the WWE legend himself. And he also has his own company that runs a lot, not just Dallas, but other areas too, called SOAR, and he trains wrestlers. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good, bro. How you doing?
I'm doing great. What's new with your company? Since the last time I saw you, I was actually attending one of your events and it was pretty good.
Oh man, everything's going well. Where Dallas was getting overrun though. Dallas seems to be the hotbed for professional wrestling. My company, Sword Championship Wrestling, there in Dallas. We've been there 5 years this month, doing really well. Got another two companies, Chaotic Kingdom Wrestling in Little Rock, Arkansas. That company is run by Jason Maldonado and his wife Jessica, and then a couple of my students run their own company I helped set up in Memphis, Tennessee, called Southern Extreme Wrestling. So they're all doing really good. I'm extremely proud. They're all under the OIWA, the Organized International Wrestling Association banner, along with SCW in Mountain Home, Arkansas, FML in Quebec, Canada. We have APWA in West Virginia, Central All Star Wrestling in Alabama. So we got a lot of things going on. I'm excited.
You're traveling around a lot then to run all those different states.
I am. I am. I'm staying busy. And I'm also watching what's going on with the wrestling business in itself in a whole. I think you were in back in Texas recently, or is that coming up with World?
They're starting another company, World Class Pro Wrestling. It was shut down for a while, but it's coming to Texas again in December to kind of take over the spot that SWE had since they went out of business a
Okay.
couple months ago.
Okay. So you're still the Southern. You're still the Texas heavyweight champion.
I'm covering it. That's a guy that I sponsor, but yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
I'm helping produce interviews and stuff and working away on that. Someone's asking on here if you still keep in touch with Oscar.
Yes, I actually spoke with him one day last week. They got this big event on Saturday, November the 13th in I think it's in Boston. It's 80s an 80s festival or something. Got a bunch of 80s WWF superstars at a convention there in Boston.
And you're actually still getting in the ring too. I've seen you do like a warrior gimmick now, and I believe you're tag team champions.
Yeah, it's actually the outfit's kind of warrior gladiator ish. It's just the whole Sermo night thing. So it's kind of a feed from that, and my tag team partner Nate Lawson, Nate the Great Lawson. We have a tag team called Knights of the Squared Circle.
How did you get started in pro wrestling yourself? Were you a fan and just kind of wanted to always be a wrestler, or did you somehow get pulled into the business?
Well, it was just one of those things where, um, as a kid, I've always watched wrestling. Never really thought that I would be one until the summer of 1990. I had just gotten out of the military, and I was feeling that I was having some separation anxiety, from being away from the group, and I was trying to figure out what I could do, what I could be a part of that consisted of groups of people, and wrestling just happened to come to mind, and there was a indie show. First time I'd ever been to an indie show. Came to my town. I met Gene Anderson and some of the local indie guys, and found out about the local school there in Monroe, North Carolina. And the next week, I signed up, paid my $300. They tried to run me to death, and here it is, 31 years later, and I'm still involved.
Yeah, and when you started, you were part of a team called Harlem Knights, and there's a fan on here that wants to know, did that name come from Eddie Murphy's movie that had the same name?
No, what what it was is myself and Nelson. We were going by the Knight brothers, Bobby and Nelson Knight, and we were from Harlem, New York. So that's where the name come from. We were from Harlem, and we were the Knight brothers, so we called ourselves the Harlem Knights.
And how did you meet him? Was it just you guys met and became friends and decided that you'd be a tag team?
I was a student at Gene Anderson's pro wrestling school there in Monroe, North Carolina, and one day Nelson just showed up out of the blue for a tryout, and since I had already gone through that tryout and seeing Nelson, he was at the time he was 6 foot, about 6'8", 6'9", and he probably didn't weigh but about 460 at the time. He was more bottom heavy than he was anything. So I knew how hard it was getting through the tryout when I went through it, and so I kind of went through it with him too to try to help him get through it. Because if you don't make it through the tryout, they won't train you. They'll just take your money and send you on your way. So I knew he was gonna have problems. So I ran the thing with him and got him through the tryout, and he lived 4 hours away. So then I talked him into moving closer, and we pretty much got an apartment together, and we lived together from we started school. That was in 1990, so we lived together from 1990 until I think we left WWE in '96. So we lived together in the same house from 1990 to 1996, and then I moved in with a girlfriend, and he moved in with a girlfriend. But yeah, we lived in the same house, traveled the road, did everything together from 1990 to 1996.
I'd hate to see what your grocery bills were from those times living together.
You know what? We ate out. We didn't, so I would say we probably spent a lot of money because we never cooked. We ate out. So
Yeah, that's my problem too. I do the exact same thing. Now, how was the USWA for you? You always hear that they didn't pay very well, but they were a stepping stone towards WWE. Did you have a good experience overall?
okay, so when when it comes to the USWA for me and Nelson, we had worked almost 2 years in the Carolinas for the PWF, Professional Wrestling Federation, which was run and owned by George South and the Italian Stallion. And there for 2 years we had run all over the place. And everybody that knows anything about the PWF, they ran shows, 3-4 shows a week every week. So we were all over the country, West Virginia, North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina. We were everywhere. And for 2 years, I mean, we paid dues, man. We never got paid. So when we made it to the USWA, Mr. Jarrett, at the very least, you could get a $40 draw every night. So for Nelson and I, that $40, that was some pretty decent money. And we walked in the door working a program against Jeff Jarrett and Jerry the King Lawler on top. So the very first big payoff we had was $150 for working them at the Mid-South Coliseum. So for me and Nelson working at USWA, you know, we were superstars in our minds. You know, we had made it.
How was Jerry Lawler to work with, being such a legend in Memphis, and he was still just coming off of his prime years, I guess, at that time?
You know what? Just a nice guy, man. Just he kind of helped us out, as far as with our character development, because when we first went in there, we kind of went in there kind of like two big black dudes, but we were like a black version of the Moondog, just acting wild and just woof, woof, that kind of craziness. And Lawler pretty much pulled us aside and was like, okay, so y'all hooting and hollering and barking and all of that stuff. How many of them people in that crowd out there hooting and hollering and barking and all that stuff? And we were like, none. He was like, so how do you think they're going to relate to that? So he literally talked us into changing the way we ran that gimmick. So I appreciate all the lessons we learned from Jerry Lawler. Super nice guy, man. I mean, people say a lot of negative things about him. I can't point a finger at one thing that I know that he did me wrong. I can't point a finger at one thing. So for me, they gave us an opportunity, and I'm eternally grateful.
Was Jerry Jarrett involved in the company at that time at all?
Oh, Jerry Jarrett was the boss. So in fact, when Nelson and I showed up, it was Jerry Jarrett and Jeff Jarrett going into the TV studio that morning, because we had driven down from Charlotte, North Carolina on Thursday night and gotten there late Friday, and we slept in the car at the TV station. So that morning going inside, we met Jerry Jarrett and Jeff Jarrett, and Jerry Jarrett was just super nice guy. First question he asked us was if we could do this, and this. And we was like, yeah, we could do all of that. And he was like, if you guys as big as you are could do all of this that I just asked you, I would have heard about you by now. And Nelson and I couldn't do nothing but scratch our heads and be like, I don't know, but we can do all of that stuff. And we had to show him the next night in Jonesboro, Arkansas. He gave us a tryout, and we showed him, and he come back running through there like, oh my God, you guys are hired. You guys are hired. And from there, it's history.
Do you hear some positive and negative stuff about Jerry Jarrett? Bruce Pritchard likes to do impressions of him and stuff, but was your experience with him positive overall?
You know what? I never had any negative experience working at USWA for Jerry Jarrett or Jerry the King Lawler. Never. There was never any one thing that I could point to that was a negative experience working for those guys.
So how were you recruited into WWE?
Okay, so it was the summer of '93, and the Moondogs were not getting along. One of the guys was from Pittsburgh. The taller of the Moondogs was from Pittsburgh, and he wasn't getting along with Larry Booker. They were having some personal conflicts. I don't know what that entailed, but the bigger guy decided to quit and go back to Pittsburgh. And when that happened, they didn't have a tag team that they could match against me and Nelson, because we had worked Lawler and Jeff, and then we worked Jeff and Danny Davis, and then we had worked Jeff, and they brought in the Big Boss Man. So we had gone through, everybody. The only thing that they had at that time coming in was PG-13. So they had brought in Steve Dahl and Rex. Can't think of Rex's name, but Simply Divine to work uh, PG-13. So
Right. They were well done in WWE, right? Those
yeah,
guys.
they were well done in WWE, and they had brought those guys in. So Mr. Jarrett came to us and told us that he wanted us to take the summer off and come back in the fall. So pretty much he was pretty much laying us off, and Brian Christopher was standing by and heard the conversation. And Brian Christopher knew we had moved from the Carolinas to Memphis, Tennessee, because we were staying out of a hotel. And he told Mr. Jerry, he was like, "Yo, man, you can't let those guys go like that. They uprooted themselves and moved to Memphis." And Mr. Jerry was like, "Well, I didn't know that, guys." He's like, "I'll tell you what, call me on Monday, and I'll either have you a tryout with WWF or a job with WCW." And before we could even call him on Monday, JJ Dillon called us and set up the tryout, set up all the information for travel and everything. Tryout to fly to it was Portland, Maine, and for a tryout. It was myself, Nelson, and Scott Levy, who later became Johnny Polo or Raven, flew up together for a tryout.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And that's always nerve-wracking getting a tryout with that group in WWE. That's the big show in those days. How was that tryout experience for you?
Oh man, everybody was like really cool, man. This is right when they were just starting to push Yoko. So we were standing there getting ready to go through the gorilla position, and Yoko was standing there. And Vince looked at Nelson, patted him on the shoulder, and said, "Hey, big guy, you think you can wear that diaper?" And Yoko looked at Vince like, "Fuck you," you know. And so Vince was like, really cheerful that night, man, and he made it real easy. So we went out there and did our stuff and come back. And immediately JJ pulled us to the side and said they were interested. And, that we had to wait and see what transpired the next night. But man, it was a cool experience, man. They literally made it no pressure, man. It was like just come in there and have fun and go do your stuff, and we'll just see. So it was a good experience.
A lot of the wrestlers from that time, like the Steiners and Duke the Dumpster, and a ton of them have said that the pay was surprisingly low. Adam Bomb said the same thing in those years for WWE. Did you have that same experience that
Okay,
some
so um, you got to remember now. When we signed in '93, Nelson and I had just started wrestling school in 1990. So we really didn't have anything to gauge it by. In other words, we had worked 2 years for Stallion for no money. Now we're working for Jerry Jarrett for anywhere from $40 to $150 a night. And you go from that to WWE working Madison Square Garden for $1,000 a night. So, me, young black kid from the ghetto, from the projects, $1,000 a night. I had, from a money standpoint, at that point, I had no complaints. Now, I can't say that by 1995, after I had understood how it worked, if I'll give you an example. 95 SummerSlam 95, Nelson was in the main event against Kevin Nash. That's their second largest pay-per-view of the year, and I got paid for that pay-per-view like I would have for a house show. And I took the first bump, the middle bump, and probably the last bump before Nelson took the one bump at the end of the match. So I was kind of sideways about that pay, but other than that, I never thought that the pay wasn't any good.
How was the backstage environment in those days? We always hear the stories about the Clique. Actually, you told me some about the Clique, but overall, was it a good or bad environment? You don't have to tell me that story again.
Okay, well, so I mean, overall, man, everything was cool. They used to abuse Oscar, um, but the his biggest problem was Oscar came from another form of entertainment, and he didn't understand how the wrestling business worked. So, of course, he got in a lot of trouble. So that was a reason why he got abused. There was jokes and all that stuff. The click thing only affected me that one time. Um, and I allowed it to really affect me. But as far as other people, the only other person that I personally saw was getting damaged by something that had to do with the click was Candido. That was really the only person.
What did you think about that whole thing with Sunny's openly admitted that she was with Shawn Michaels during that time? And we've heard stories that they were actually having sex backstage sometimes with Candido in the building. Do you think he knew about it and just accepted it? Or do you think it like actually turned him on? Or what do
No,
you think
I
of the
don't.
situation?
I know he knew. I know Chris knew something. It did turn him on. He was always upset. I know that it was going on because I myself personally caught them several times before anybody else ever knew about it. I remember when Tammy came to do a benefit for me back in 2013. We used to joke about. She would say, you know, all the times you caught me and Sean, if you'd have said something to him, like, "Yo, man, you helped me, you become the Intercontinental Champion. I'm gonna tell it." He probably would have done it for you at that time. We joked and laughed about that in 2013, but that was the one thing I remember. It was Royal Rumble. We were in San Jose. I want to say that was '96. Royal Rumble was in San Jose. I think it was '96. Anyway, I was on the top of my balcony. The hotel we were in circled the lobby down there, and I had just come out of my room. I was at the top of my balcony, and Sonny, Chris, Candido, and Peter Polacco or Just Incredible were sitting down in the lobby eating at a table, and I watched Sonny leave the table, get on the elevator, and come up the elevator, and directly across the other side of the building was Sean's room, and Kevin Nash and Scott Hall and all those guys was hanging out, and she left the table down there and snuck up there and went in Sean's room. So Candido and PJ are sitting down there eating. I don't remember if it was breakfast time or dinner time, but they're down there eating, and she done slipped up in the Sean's room, you know. So yeah, it was going on. I caught them several times coming out of locker rooms, coming out of closets. It was just a funny thing, man.
Yeah, I mean, most people wouldn't put up with that.
Yeah, it was. The worst part about it was, what do you say to Chris? You don't. You can tell it's eating him up, but you don't want to be the guy to go to him and say, "Yo, man, this is what your girl's doing." I mean, I know it was tough for me and PJ because PJ was like his best friend at the time, and so I just never said anything, man. I just kept it to myself, and I think that was one of the reasons why after the incident with me and Sean, we still kind of got along, because at the time before it became public, I knew his secret. So.
Did you ever see Sean since that incident where you had that confrontation with him and like kind of bury the hatchet because it's been so many years, or is there
You
still?
know what, man? It's funny because we worked the program. We worked the program with Sean and Kevin in '95, right after Jeff Jarrett and Road Dogg quit, walked out at a pay-per-view. I think it was in Nashville. And Nelson and I worked the program with those guys, for a couple weeks, man, every night. And we never even mentioned it again. After it happened and after it was over with, we never even mentioned it again. And honestly, man, I was so blinded by it that I didn't even realize that, it happened in '94. By '95, it was over with, and we didn't have any issues after that. But I'll say this, though, as time has gone on and as I've grown and as I've watched the business, I now understand. I don't get him putting his hands on me, but I now understand what he was upset about. I get it now. It makes all the sense in the world, And the whole thing was he was horrible at doing it, probably because he was probably drunk or peeled up or something. He was horrible at doing it, at communicating it. But his point was, if you're healthy enough to show up at the building, you're healthy enough to go to the ring and work, and that's what happened. Is Nelson got sick, got sent back to the hotel, and Sean was mad. He felt like it's a tag match that he felt like Nelson should have somehow, drug himself to the ring, stood on the apron, and let me go out there and do like I do every night, get the crap beat out of me, get beat, and then, make it to the back. That way everybody works, everybody gets a payoff, because back then, if you didn't work, you didn't get a payoff. It wasn't, we had guaranteed contracts or anything like that. So, even though you were on the road, if you didn't work, you didn't get a payoff for that night. Now you can get a per diem, but if you got a per diem for that day, you didn't work, you didn't get a payoff. So you may end up owing the company $50, the way things were set up back then. So at the time, being a rookie, not knowing that I should have just not put it over, kept my mouth shut, I didn't understand. But, I get it now. I truly get it now. And I'm over it too. So as far as he and I talking about it or whatever, I get it. There's nothing to say I'm sorry about, because I think that I probably wouldn't have handled it the way he handled it. But there's been times when young guys, didn't want to work for some reason. Oh, I'm not coming to practice because I want to hang out with my girlfriend or something that annoyed me. And so I get it. I understand it now. And so it's water under a bridge.
Have you heard about the latest contest that Sunny did for her OnlyFans?
No, I haven't heard anything other than I read something where she was in the hospital again right now.
Yeah.
And there was no details, but I just read this last night. There was no details, but she's been in the hospital for the last 10 days. So I don't know about the contest, but I do want to send her, well wishes and hope that whatever it is she's going through, it gets better soon.
Yeah, I won't go into the details of the contest because it's something right out of a movie. But there's a lot of people asking on here about when you were you were Doink at the Survivor Series, and I guess the Wrestling Observer voted that the worst match of the year. Do you think they were being fair with that vote? And how was your experience doing that whole vote?
That Meltzer's paper, the
Yeah,
Wrestling Observer.
yeah,
He's so critical. He's so critical. He's so critical, and he's got a lot to say. But here's what I say about Meltzer. Meltzer don't realize that there's power in words, man. You know what I mean? And to say that that was the worst match ever, it may have been the worst match ever, but that doesn't mean he should say that. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
He said
Because
the worst match of '93 or whatever.
well, it may have been, but you know, him saying that, what he don't realize is, and this is something I want to talk to Tony Khan about. So what he don't realize is, man, you're talking about something that people put their heart and sweat and blood into, man. You know, and you're criticizing it. He's always criticizing stuff, not realizing, dude, you might as well, with as much as he criticized people in our business, he might as well just walk up to him and take a knife and stab him in the throat, you know, or just give him a little nick. Every time he says something about somebody's career, he might as well just give him a little nick, man, because he's all it is abuse, man. All it is mental abuse when you do that. And because he does that, and I don't care who likes it and who don't like it, I think he's a piece of shit. That's just my opinion. You know, stop bullying people. Stop bashing people. I mean, how would he feel if somebody says he was the worst fucking journalist on the planet? He wouldn't like that. And that may not even be true. But if everybody said that, he wouldn't like that. So he should stop fucking criticizing everybody.
Yeah, I don't remember the match itself. I just remember that you were one of the doinks. And how
Yep.
was that whole thing? How did they approach you with that? And were you just happy that you were getting like the
So
pay-per-view stuff?
so Nelson and I, this was Survivor Series, and Nelson and I had only been on the road for a month. All right. That whole year we sat out in 93. We signed our contracts early in the summer, and we did vignettes throughout the year, and then we didn't start on the road until September. So that was Survivor Series, and we walked into the building, and we didn't even know that we were even in the pay-per-view. We walked in the building, and they sent us to makeup. And said, go to makeup, go to makeup. They paint us up like Donk the Clown, and said, okay, you two, with those two and Dink, are going to work the Samoans, Bastion, Booger, and Bam Bam, you know, because Bam Bam was working this program with Donk the Clown at the time. So this was just an extension of that program. So we were just told to use whatever goofy objects, scooters, turkey bones, buckets, confetti, whatever, and do whatever we could to make an entertaining match out of it. And that's what we did.
And you had an appearance in the Royal Rumble that was about 3 seconds, which we've seen a lot of wrestlers have over the years. What were your thoughts on that? Just easy payday, or?
Bruh, you know what? I got $3,000 per second. That's what my thoughts were. It was 3 seconds. I got $9,000. I didn't care. I was there, you know. And having said that, let me say this, man, because this is something I want to talk to Tony Khan about. You know, I watch AEW, right? And I love that program, man. I love what they're doing. Everything that I see and hear about Tony Khan, he seems like a pretty decent person, and he seems to care about his talent. You know, cares about wrestling in general. But I don't think he realizes it or not. And I want to tell him that, you know, in all the good that he's trying to do, he's also doing something to hurt young wrestlers. And he may not even know it, but he's doing something to hurt young wrestlers. And I want to personally tell him this, I don't want to blast it over social media and say, "Oh, Tony Khan's, doing this bad, doing no," because it's not that. It's just it's a business practice that I don't think he realizes how it causes harm, and it could lead to depression and stuff too. So one day I'm gonna find out how to get a hold of Tony Khan. And I'm gonna talk to him about something that he may not be aware of or inadvertently aware of that's causing harm.
Is it true that you worked for WCW in '95 while you were still under a WWE contract?
That never happened. I never. Uh, the only time I ever worked at WCW is in 91 or 92. Nelson and I went and had a tryout. Uh, went to Augusta, Georgia for a tryout, and I remember Dusty Rhodes gave us gave our tag team the name the Urban League, and I remember telling my mom that, and she didn't think too kindly of us, being a black tag team being called the Urban League. So, but I remember that, and things didn't go well that night. We didn't get the job, but that was the only time I ever appeared in at WCW. I will say though, Grizzly Smith, uh, out of everybody that we met when we went down there, Grizzly Smith was the nicest guy, man. Uh, really, really treated me and Nelson like we were somebody. Not only that night, but it was a couple times that WCW came to the Charlotte Coliseum. It's called Bojangles Arena right now, but Grizzly Smith was there and he invited us backstage and was a really super nice dude.
Did you see the dark side of the ring about him? I know the dark is sometimes, and they have their own agendas when they do their documentaries.
I seen the previews and all that stuff, and I also watched uh, Wrestling with Shadows, the thing they did about Jake a long time ago, and so I was aware that there was a lot of negative things that were going to be said about Grizzly, and my remembrance of the guy uh, was what I want to remember. So no, I didn't watch Dark Side of the Ring, and I probably won't.
As far as working with the Quebecers, Jacques Rougeau told me to say hi to you. And what are your memories of them? That's one of your best feuds that you had there.
If ever there was a tag team that I had to work every night, is him and Pierre, man, because Jacques and Pierre, they tried to teach us something. They didn't go out there and try to make it all about them. It was about the match itself. It was about both teams accomplishing one goal, man. Jacques was always nice to me. Me and Pierre were always cool. There was never one of those tug of wars between who's going to do what, who's going to do this, who's trying to get over more than the other, or let me get my shit in, or none of that stuff. So I always appreciated working Jacques and Pierre, man. I always did.
I know you never worked against them, I don't think, but what about the Bushwhackers? How were they?
Luca Bush, so we worked with them with the Daunt thing. We worked with them, and so they were always super nice. And then Luke's worked a couple of my indie shows, and then Luke and I did a virtual signing like a month or so ago, a month and a half ago, maybe. He and I did a virtual signing. So I've always had a good relationship with those guys, man. So super cool dudes, man. Super cool dudes.
Did Owen Hart ever rib you backstage?
No, man. That dude was that dude was he was one of my friends, man. When I was going through a depression and I was down and out, Owen used to be the one to try to cheer me up. We used to always sit around and talk about his son Oj, and who that I mean that was the light of his life at the time. This was before Athena was born, but no, we had a good relationship. In fact, I took one of my students to a house show in Nashville in 97, whatever year it was that Queen Elizabeth died. They had a house show in Nashville, and I took one of my students, and we worked the opening match. And right after that, Owen was like, man, come to Louisville the next night. They had a pay-per-view in Louisville. He said, come to Louisville the next night, man. Let me try to talk them into giving you your job back. It's like, man, you still got it, buddy. I never took him up on the offer, because I had already told myself that I didn't want to put myself back in that position where I was going to get depressed, and it was just bad timing for me.
And I think you mean Princess Diana died, right?
Yes. Who did I say?
Queen Elizabeth. She's still alive.
I'm so
Easy to-
stupid, man. I'm so stupid. Yeah, it was.
Well, you guys aren't under the British monarchy there in the U.S.
That was. I'm sorry, man. My apologies.
So for the fans that don't know, you left WWE because you were just having mental health issues, right?
No, actually, we left. It was a Royal Rumble '96, and right after Nelson got eliminated and came to the back, him and Undertaker almost got into a fight, and it was just one thing after another. So that night, Nelson was like, "Yo, man, let's just get in the car and go home." So we got in the car and we drove and called a red eye home, and to Nashville. And the next day, we didn't show up at Raw. We called JJ and told him that we wanted our release. So we was pretty much burnt out on it, and we asked for our release, and Vince asked us to put it in writing, and we did that, and we forfeited all the money we had coming to us, and we had a non-compete clause. But I think what we did was, the more I think about it, we waited 180 days instead of 90 days. Because it's supposed to be 90 days from the day of the release, not 90 days from the end of our contract. And we waited till the end of our contracts. But that there too shows you how young we were. We were young. We didn't really, know all the aspects of the business. And that's why I'm a coach today, to try to teach young folks that stuff, man. 'Cause there's a lot of stuff that they don't know. They think they know, and they don't. And I try to teach them that stuff. But sometimes, young people have a tendency to get ahead of themselves, and they go and do stuff, and until they've done it and screwed up, they don't realize that, okay, you shouldn't have done that. You should have asked, or you should have waited till you were taught that before you done it. But we didn't have anything like that. Like, nobody mentored myself and Nelson. We had to learn. We had to sink or swim. Fall on our face, and nobody was there to help us out, man. And that's the sad part about it. If we'd had some good mentors, some coaches, man, Lord rest Nelson's soul, we probably would have lasted longer and did more.
Yeah, mentors are important. I never really had one either, and there's some decisions that, looking back, if I had had guidance, it would have been a lot better. Uh, there's
100%.
a there's a fan on here that's wondering. Hulk Hogan was leaving WWE just as you guys were coming in. Were you guys happy that he was like going away? What was like the feeling in the back that the guy that had been like the face of the company for so long was leaving?
So, it was, I think it was SummerSlam, 93 when I walked in the building. I saw Hope for the first time. He had slimmed down, and I only saw him that night. After that night, I didn't see him anymore. But it didn't seem like anybody cared. Things just went on. It was business as usual. It was like somebody comes, somebody goes. Everybody just did their own thing. Nobody was sitting around, feeling bad or whining about, somebody leaving, or worried about business because somebody left. Everybody was just trying to do their thing and hold on to their spot.
Michael brings up that Shelton Benjamin spoke up that he thought WWE should have done a tribute to Mabel when he passed away, considering how long he had been with the company. What were your thoughts on them not really doing anything about it? And I guess you guys, neither of you are in the Hall of Fame yet, even though you were a big part of the WWE in those
I,
mid
I,
90s.
I think that I think I think at the time when it was going on, there was so much. Nelson passed away, and then there was so much going on and being said, uh, on one side or the other. And at the same time, the week he passed away, they were launching the network. You know, uh, I think other than just flashing his picture, which is what they did, I think they could have probably the week after you know come back and did some kind of tribute. I think he deserved that. Um, but you know, it's WWE, so they march to the beat of their own drum, and I it's not gonna do me. It's not gonna do me any good. It's not gonna do Nelson's memory any good for me to sit here and try to bash or criticize what they did and what they didn't do. That's why every year at my events, I do something in remembrance of Nelson. So I don't let the fact that they didn't do anything then stop me from every year around Valentine's Day, which is his birthday, me and my team doing something to remember Nelson.
Of course. And there's a fan on here that wants me to ask you about your team with Nate Lawson, name from the past.
Okay, so Nate is one of my students. Actually, Nate graduated from my school sometime this time last year. So he approached me one day and said, "Man, I always had a dream of wrestling with you, man. You want to do this tag team thing?" And uh, I was I was kind of flattered that the young kid wanted to tag with an old dude like me. But at the same time, I'm thinking, yeah, I'll tag with you in this situation. I'll be Big Mabel, and you could be Little Mo, and you could do all the work, and I'll stand on the outside, and I'll come in, I'll do my little 10 or 15 seconds, do my one or two, three moves, and I'll get out, and yeah, I can do this. So Nate's a super nice guy, man. The kid's got a hell of a look. This kid should he's one of several kids that work for me that should be going places. Dante Smiley, the OIWA International Heavyweight Champion. The kid's built like a brick house. He's worked with people that are already signed with AEW. Had some great matches. Had a great match with Austin Aries, Danny Garcia. You name him, he's had some great matches. Dean Fleming had a good match with Fred Yehi. Several guys from the indie circuit, what they call him, the crown jewel of the Bully Club. I can't think of the guy's name right now. It'll come to me later, but Chase Owens, Dean Fleming's had a really great match with Chase Owens. So, you know, these guys are hot and hungry, man. They just need somebody, you know, to give them a chance, man. And that is the focus of what I do now, is trying to get those guys bigger opportunities.
Yeah, I actually went out with Dante Smiley after your show that time I went to see you, and I think he had the most talent on the card of the males, and Amber Nova you used for the females, and they were the two that stood out to me. And now it's good to see that they're doing well, and I think Dante has a good future ahead of him.
Yeah, you know, if they would just give him an honest look, you know what I mean? Don't, you know, if you're gonna put him on TV, don't put him on TV for 30 seconds. You know, there's guys that are signed at AEW, for example. Daniel Garcia, he and Dante had a smoker for about 30 minutes, 32 minutes, man. They had a smoker. That's guy signed. You know, I'd like to see AEW give Dante an opportunity to go there and work a match with that guy, and they'll see what kind of talent this kid's got, man. He's talented beyond what anybody is willing to say, but at the same time, you know, all he's got is me, and I'm not in that circle, so you know he's got to work extra hard. It's kind of like another person I could think of that's ultra talented, man, that one day he's gonna get his because he demands it. You know what I mean? He won't take no for an answer, and that's Shane Taylor. You know, Shane Taylor is the type. You know, the old me would say, Shane, be quiet, don't talk so much, don't be Malcolm X so much. That's the old me, but the new me is like, screw that, man. Be you. You know, you got talent. Be you. They'll see it one day, and if they don't see it, beat it into them. You know, make them recognize. But be you. You know, the old me would be like, "No, man, be more political." You know, nah, political don't seem to work nowadays. So now you just gotta rub that talent in their face. Every chance you get, every opportunity that they give you, and they put you in front of somebody, you go out there and you steal the show. You make yourself undeniable, and sooner or later they either gotta give you a shot, or somebody else is gonna come knocking on your door and give you a shot. So don't sit back in the corner and be like, you know, I'm gonna be politically correct today. Now, guys, now you just got to go out and get it. You got to go out and put in the work and show them and force them to recognize you, man. Because if you don't force them to recognize you, if you sit back in the corner twiddling your thumbs, hoping to be seen, you'll never be seen. You will literally never be seen because they're not looking past themselves. Because most of the people that are in charge of these companies are still working. So they're not looking past themselves to give up a spot. So you have to put in the work to bypass them, to show somebody over and above them that you got talent that's, you know, that's not working. You know, so for all the brothers and sisters out there, no more being politically correct. Go out there and bust your ass and rub it in their face how good you are. I'm not saying go out there and say, hey, here I am, this is how good I am. No, I'm saying go out there and be like Michael Jordan, perform. You know, make the naysayers, want to shut the hell up, even though they keep talking, like Scottie Pippen. Sucker. Anyway, I don't even know why I got on Scottie Pippen because he's not the Michael Jordan, but he can't deny that Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all times.
There's a fan on here that wants to know what you think about the rumors that Macho Man slept with Stephanie. That I think Macho Man may have started those rumors himself from a rap video that he put out before he passed away.
All I know is Macho was cool to me. When he left WWF, I don't even think that those were the rumors at the time. At the time it was a money thing, but I don't know. I don't know if there's any validity to it. So I can't speculate on it.
And where can fans follow you if they want to look you up on social media? I know you have a Facebook page under your real name, but maybe you could let them know where they can follow you and your company.
You can find me at Sword Championship Wrestling on Facebook.com, Bobby Horn, Sir Mo the Urban Legend on Facebook.com, the original Sir Mo on Instagram, Sir Mo at WWE Sir Mo on Twitter. You can also keep in contact with me through Chaotic Kingdom Wrestling on Facebook.com, Southern Extreme Wrestling on Facebook.com, OIWA, Organized International Wrestling Association on Facebook as well. Bumps and Bruises Pro Wrestling Academy 501 and 469 on Facebook. Those are also places that you can get a hold of me, or you can call my phone up. I'm not going to put my phone number out there, but just look for me. I'm out there and about. Sir Mo, SIRMO, trademark, belongs to me, Bobby Horn. You can just Google it, and there's no way you can't find me. I might be at the local jail locked up somewhere, but you can find me. Just Google Sir Mo or Bobby Horn.
Did you have a favorite match in the WWE that maybe younger fans that didn't get to watch you back then would be smart to look up if they want to see you in action?
Probably one of my favorites would be Men on a Mission versus the Smoking Guns. 1995.
What did you think about the whole Bart Gunn brawl for all thing and the way that they handled it, pretty much feeding him to Butterbean after he had kind of made a name for himself, beating all the other wrestlers?
Honestly, man, that's how the business is, bro. I can't say that there's ever been a year that goes by that something foul hasn't been said or done to a talent by that company. So it's not surprising.
And last question, did you ever witness any backstage fights in all your years of wrestling, real life confrontations?
You know what? The whole time that I was working for Vince or anywhere in the business, I've never seen one physical fight. There was the altercation with me and Sean, and then there was the face off. A lot of yelling and screaming between Taker and Mabel. But as far as physical fight, I never witnessed one.
What did you think about Taker overall, despite that issue with Mabel? Where you guys?
Taker was the locker room leader. And this, he felt that it was his responsibility to correct the young dude. So as far as their conversation and what it was about, I respect the process. Mark wasn't one of those guys that just bullied anybody. Him and Nelson pretty much had a really good relationship, in spite of the things, and Nelson wasn't a bad person. He just had a bad relationship. He just had a bad reputation because one or two people got hurt, but it wasn't one of those people to where everybody's like, we hate this dude and the dude's a freaking asshole. Nah, he wasn't that kind of person. He was a kind, gentle sweetheart of a person. Just what people don't realize though, in 93, 94, 95, Nelson was like 19, 20, 21. You know what I mean? He's still a baby. I mean, he's a big baby, but he's still a baby, man, and nobody tried to mentor him or we hadn't even reached 25. You know what I mean? So the dude for the 3 years that we were there, the dude couldn't even drive the rental car because he wasn't old enough. But everybody want to criticize him hurting somebody. How many young guys that size, as big as he is, that age, 19, 20, 21 years old, ain't going to make mistakes. He made mistakes. He didn't kill anybody. He made mistakes. But instead of criticizing him and beating him up, somebody should have pulled him to the side and say, hey, man, show up early at the shows because the ring be set up and we'll work with you. We'll teach you how to, keep your weight off people, or, we'll show you that, you don't have to work as hard as you are because of your size. You know what I mean? Because you guys just have to understand that we went through wrestling school, but most of what we learned, they taught me something and I taught him. They taught me something and I taught him. So it was the blind leading the blind, So I'll take responsibility for anything that Nelson done prior to 97, because basically I was his coach, so if anybody wants to blame anybody for it, just blame me. I'll accept that responsibility. But don't crucify that guy because he was young and, and we were inexperienced.
Yeah, and I'm sure he hurt less people than Ahmed Johnson.
Yeah, that guy was something else. He was something else.
Well, thank you very much for talking to us. I'll love to have you on again anytime. You're a great guy. And I'll let you close this off with whatever message you want to give to the fans or anything else you want to plug.
You know what? This message is for coaches, mentors, and for promoters out there. And I guess I'll say it to Tony Khan, to the guys over at WWE or what have you. When guys get an opportunity to go to AEW or WWE or Ring of Honor or MLW, whatever the company is, they're looking for that one opportunity to become immortal. Why? Not so much for themselves. Remember this. They're not trying to become immortal for themselves. They're trying to become immortal for their families. One of my guys was on AEW television for 1 minute and 20 seconds. He's been in the business over 10 years. He was on AEW TV for 1 minute and 20 seconds. That 1 minute and 20 seconds has meant more to him than the 10 years that he spent in his business. Why? Because he was immortalized that night by being on a national television program, by being on one of the biggest professional wrestling programs. Little kid from the ghetto, from the projects, that was always told that he was too small to make it, had a heart surgery when he was a kid, wasn't even supposed to be in this business. but he was on television. If only 1 minute and 30 seconds, if nothing but 30 seconds, he was on television. And his family, his friends can always go back, YouTube or whatever, and see that. And I always be like, man, you made it, man. You know, sometimes it's not about a long contract. Sometimes it's about that one opportunity. That one opportunity can either make somebody's life, you know what I'm saying, or take somebody's life. Because to get there and not get, you know, it's like putting a plate of food in front of a starving person. And just as he's about to dig in and eat it, right, you take that food from him and you leave him hungry. That's how young guys and girls feel when they get an opportunity to go to AEW, WWE, or whatever. You know, all they need, all they want to be fulfilled is that 30 seconds on live television for people to see them. That 30 seconds of live television. Like I saw this thing with Brock Lesnar a few weeks ago, and I didn't even realize, but that when he took the camera from the guy, that was Niles Plunkett. I was like, that's Niles Plunkett on Raw holding the camera. Like, wow, you know, sometimes Vince, Tony Khan, you know, whoever the promoters are for MLW and GCW, whatever, sometimes that 30 seconds can mean the world to these talents, man. And if you invite them, give them that 30 seconds, man. No matter what you have to do, give them that 30 seconds, because realistically, man, they show up, they're excited to be there. 9 times out of 10, they pay their own way to get there. And then when they leave and they don't get that 30 seconds, some people are strong enough to be like, okay, maybe I'll get another chance. It'll be all right. Maybe I'll get another chance. And then some people are like, it just destroys them. And when you're in the wrestling business, it's not hard to fall into a life of depression in the wrestling business. And that's what I want you guys to think about. When you're playing with people's emotion, you know, if you're going to give them an opportunity, give them an opportunity. If you're not, don't play with them. That's why I tell guys all the time, if you want to work at SOAR, if you want to work at CKW, if you want to work at SCW, just show up, man. Show up, you know, show up, help with the ring. We'll put you in the ring and let you work a match to show us what you got. But you got to show up. If you don't show up, then we don't know you serious. We don't know you serious if you don't show up. And we say show up, show up, show up, and you never show up. There's nothing we can do. And so I feel the same way about that. You know, my name's Bobby Horn, professionally known as Sir Mo of Men on a Mission. I love you guys. I love all the fans. I love this professional wrestling business. I've been doing it 31 years. God bless you guys, and peace out.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe